What's up, Mets fans? It's your boy CP back with another episode of the True Mets Talk podcast. It is December 22nd, and it's a huge day for the MLB community. We now know that Yoshinobu Yamamoto, the signing saga is now over. He's heading to the Dodgers. We'll talk about that signing. We'll talk about the Mets' perspective of that signing, sort of how the contract negotiations materialized and where they go from here. And before we get into that, make sure you hit that thumbs up button. Support the podcast by subscribing to the channel and commenting your thoughts and opinions about this video and about this topic. I want to hear what you all have to think. Make sure you're going ahead and following all my social media handles to get more updates on the podcast and more Mets talk in general. The Interstate Mets Report will be live streaming tonight at 9 p.m. with a special guest joining Nelson and I later on. Hopefully you can make it. If not, catch the rerun. Without further ado, let's get into it. All right, so let's talk about it. Before we get into the nitty-gritty specifics of this sort of deal for the Dodgers and how it relates to the Mets, I think that the theme that I am taking away from today and that I'm approaching the situation with, and I think that, Mets fans collectively can do themselves a favor by thinking this way as well, is that Yoshinobu Yamamoto, and this doesn't just go for him, it goes for any other free agents on the market that the Mets may or may not be targeting. If they don't want to play in Queens, then we don't want them. We should want players that actually want to play in the bright lights of New York and take on that ace type role or that star player type role. And if Yamamoto didn't want to do that, if that wasn't appealing to him as much as playing with Ohtani over there in LA, then more power to him. We don't want him. I have no doubt in my mind that he is going to be a great pitcher in the MLB for the Dodgers. But at the end of the day, us Mets fans, New Yorkers in general, should want players that actually want to put on that Mets uniform. Now, like I said, the Dodgers are on an insane spending spree. 12 years, $325 million for Yoshinobu Yamamoto. They already extended Tyler Glasnow, and they paid Ohtani $700 million. Although that deal was deferred, that is what helped open up the doors for this potential deal, or for this deal to happen, not potential anymore because he is signed to the Dodgers. The doors opened for Yamamoto to the Dodgers after that deferment was made on the Ohtani contract. Now, like I said, I truly don't know where the Mets go from here. I'll talk about that in a little bit, but there are pivot points still to be had. It's just how the Mets plan on going about 2024 versus 2025. I've mentioned all that in my previous episodes as well. Make sure you go check them out. But the $51 million posting fee going back to the Orgs Buffaloes because of this deal is something to take into consideration as well. And we'll talk about the contracts that were offered to Yamamoto before he made the decision. So let's get into that. Per Steve Cohen himself, given an interview with Mike Puma, and now that we know how the situation played out, the Mets were one of the very first teams to make Yamamoto an offer, and they started at 12 years, $325 million off the bat. From then, he went to the Dodgers, and the Dodgers matched. Now, according to Steve Cohen, Yamamoto never came back to the Mets and allowed them the opportunity to go above and beyond that $325 million. That's why I firmly am not angry about this decision and how this played out for the Mets. It would be one thing if Steve Cohen underbid the Dodgers, but offering the same amount of money and also not getting the chance even to offer more money to get him into the doors, you can't blame Steve Cohen. I know that there's a lot of Wilpon sympathizers out there on Mets Twitter. We're seeing the narratives. I've been seeing it all day, which is why I'm making this podcast episode in general, just to sort of share my thoughts and opinions about that. But if you're the New York Mets and you're a New York Mets fan, seeing that the owner did everything in the realm of possibility to give him this type of offer should make you feel at least good in an aspect. Now, it doesn't make me feel good that he chose another team over the Mets. And I firmly don't believe that's because of the Mets image and how it stacks up to an LA Dodgers team with proven success. I really do think it came down to wanting to play with Ohtani, wanting to be on the West Coast. And that was the driving factor for Yamamoto. But like I said, I feel great about how this played out for the Mets. They did everything in their realm of possibility to offer him up 12 years with opt-outs and $325 million. He just wanted to go play elsewhere, and that's okay. Like I said at the top of this podcast, we want players that want to play here. Um, Despite what Morosi and Heyman were trying to spew on the media, I made a podcast episode about that as well. I never felt like the Yankees were true contenders for Yamamoto money-wise. Now, like I said, if he was enamored by playing in New York and putting on those pinstripes, more power to him. The Yankees obviously gave him his own number 18 jersey as a selling pitch, which he basically curved them in doing so by going to the Dodgers, which is pretty funny. But uh, $300 million for the Yankees. Brian Cashman said it himself. Nobody really can compete with Steve Cohen at the end of the day when it comes to money. And as soon as the Yankees learned that the Mets and Dodgers were putting up $325 million, they weren't too comfortable with going anywhere beyond $300 million. Basically, the reports came out saying that they thought 300 was a generous offer within itself, and they never went above and beyond that. So if I'm a Yankees fan seeing that, then I think to myself, oh, that's a little bit concerning, especially now that you have to go and re-sign Juan Soto, and that's a situation within itself that we'll be closely monitoring. The Mets and Yankees and how it played out for these two teams, I'm sorry to say, is not the same. So, Mets fans, I hope you realize that, and I hope that everybody realizes that's watching this. Steve Cohen never even got an opportunity to offer more. That was their baseline offer. That's what they were starting off with, presumably, at the beginning of this week. And they never got an opportunity to come back and get another offer in as soon as the Dodgers matched. So, like I said, good for the Dodgers. They bolstered their rotation. They've been spending like crazy. We've yet to see the Mets do that so far. And it's no telling what they're going to do to close out this offseason. Presumably, and ideally, if you want to be competitive in 2024, you have to fill in two more rotation spots because a rotation of Quintana, Hauser, Severino, and Senga alone is not going to win you many ball games, to be honest with you. So you still need a couple starters out there. Now, this is highly contingent on what they do in terms of moving forward for the 2024 season, how they view their future. I made an episode already. I've been talking about the 2025 free agent class. You have a lot of, I guess, decent options out there in terms of the pitching market. They're older options, but they are good options nonetheless. Corbin Burns tops that market for me in 2025. It really does depend on where the Mets want to put themselves moving forward. They have money coming off the books. A lot of people were speculating after Max Scherzer talked about the Mets not being serious in 2024 in terms of putting together the most competitive roster. Everybody went into a frenzy. I don't think that that's the case, and I never thought that was the case. I do think we're going to see signings. It's just tough now with the pitching market. You have Eduardo Rodriguez, who I was lobbying for from the very start, whether it was going to be Yamamoto or not. Regardless, I wanted Eduardo Rodriguez here as another lefty in the rotation, but now that option is out the window. So who do you pivot to? There's more lefties to be had. You have Shota Imanaga, which is my pivot point, my personal favorite pivot point in lieu of this Yamamoto news. 5 years, anywhere between $75 to $85 million gets it done for Shota Imanaga. He's a very crafty lefty. I understand that he's already 30, 31 years old. That is understandable. But with that value, I think you get the most bang for your buck rather than pivoting to a Jordan Montgomery or a Blake Snell. Now, those guys are a lot more solidified in terms of their sample size, but you have to think that those guys are asking for 6 to 7 year deals, upwards of 25, maybe even $30 million AAV. I'm not comfortable in the Mets making that investment long term, to be honest with you. It'd be great for 2024, just basically filling in those rotation spots, but that is a massive commitment to guys that I truly believe aren't, I guess, consistent ace type guys. Blake Snell on a good year with his 2 Cy Youngs, yeah, he's an ace. That's for sure. Are we going to see that Blake Snell over the course of the next 6 to 7 years? I'm not so confident. And Jordan Montgomery is a 2 or 3 at best in the rotation, and he does not deserve, quite simply, top of the line, top of the rotation, ace type money from the New York Mets. So like I said, the Mets can approach this a lot of different ways. We'll talk about it on the Interstate Mets Report tonight. Tune into that live stream. I didn't want to get into the specifics of where the Mets pivot to in this video, more so about the contract negotiation standpoint for the New York Mets and how they did everything they needed to do in terms of landing Yamamoto. It just simply did not work out. So I appreciate everyone watching this. Hopefully everyone watching this shares the same sentiments, but if you don't, I fully respect that opinion. Make sure you drop your comment in terms of how you view this miss by the New York Mets and Yamamoto heading to LA. Make sure you comment, hit that thumbs up, and subscribe to the channel. I thoroughly appreciate it. And make sure you follow me on all my social medias at CPNY Sports for more podcast updates. Like I said, Interstate Mets is going down tonight on the channel, 9 p.m. Make sure you tune in, drop those comments in the live chat section. But if you can, and we miss you, it's a Friday, I do understand people are busy. Make sure you watch the rerun and give your thoughts and opinions later when you get a chance to. So, like I said, it's been another episode of the True Mets Talk podcast. We'll see where the Mets go from here. It's your boy CP. I'm out. Thank you for watching the latest episode of the CP New York Sports Pod. If you enjoyed this content, make sure you hit that thumbs up, comment your thoughts and opinions, and use the lower right-hand button of this video to subscribe to the channel. Thank you.